Good evening and welcome to the second edition of Take a Seat. It's a festive edition. I'm wearing my Christmas jumper. I've got Santa on my belly. I've got Christmas on the brain. I'm joined today by a smorgasbord of guests. We have SWTOR Miner, Nepthan. We were going to have Slickballs McGee, aka SWTOR Economics, but unfortunately he's had to go away. So we also got Kuze on there. So this is more musical chairs than Take a Seat. We have so many people on here today. So how are we all doing today, guys? How's your weekend so far?
Fantabulous.
Excellent.
Great so far. Yep.
Good.
Got a lot of stuff.
So the whole point of this show is to not only discuss what's going on in the world of SWTOR, but to get to know the people in the community behind the community. We want to know all about you and what you've been doing and why you do what you're doing. So before we carry on, let's just find out a little bit of basics. Let's have a little meet and greet for those who don't know who you are. I imagine the vast majority will know who you are. But first of all, Miner, just tell us your MMO experience, who you are, just the general stuff.
Well, I've been playing MMOs. My first MMO was Star Wars Galaxies. I missed the whole EverQuest train. That's mainly because I didn't have a dial-up at the time. But then I got moved on to that, and I started playing WoW. And from that, I quit that a few years ago, and then decided to pick up SWTOR. So it's my MMO experience there.
What is your MMO claim to fame, Miner?
Well, probably being Miner himself, as I claim to fame. I do have an item named after me in one of the games I've played, so that's good.
But we can't talk about that because it's top secret.
Can't talk about it because it's top secret. So.
Confirmed, Miner is Delphi. Finally find out. Never seen them.
Never seen them in the same place. Nope. That's what I was saying. No.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Kuze? Give us a little bit of your background. What's been going on with you?
Let's see. As far as MMOs, of course, I started playing World of Warcraft overseas when I didn't have much to do. I started in vanilla right before, Burning Crusades came out. Yeah. Ended in Kata because it just wore on me. Yeah, it sucked. Just kind of wore me down. I decided to give it up. And I was hunting around the internet for a while trying to find an MMO, and then I saw Star Wars was coming out. And I really wanted to play a MMO that was sci-fi instead of fantasy. So I picked it up, started playing, got into the the early guild stuff that SWTOR was doing when it first launched. Yeah. Picked up into a guild. Didn't work out too well because most of the people left after, let's say, a month or so. Found podcasts because I listened to podcasts while I was playing World of Warcraft. Found UtiniCast. Started submitting some of the video Datacron stuff to them and started raiding with them. And then one day Tio asked if I wanted to be on, and the rest is history.
When Tio asks, you obey.
Yes, you can't deny him. It's kind of hard.
Out of interest, as a little quick aside here, you said that most players left after a month. Why did they leave? Was it because of a lack of story?
Somewhat. I mean, I did have the guild that I was in was a pretty hardcore raiding guild, and it had a lot of teams. So it was not lack of story. Sorry, it was due to group content, and the biggest thing that I saw just community wide was bugs. And there were certain things that weren't in the game at the time, things like Group Finder, even simple things like, ready checks and things like that. So, I mean, there's just, it was just missing a lot of the smaller nuances that MMOs normally had, and I think it kind of got to people, and especially the bugs.
I suppose the good thing about the silver fight is, even if you can clear the fight and you have the gear and it's relatively easy, it's still really, really hard because it can go wrong at any given moment.
Yes, and it's still that way.
And it's vanish, yeah.
And it's still that way today.
Yeah.
4 years later.
Oh. That was so sweet there, Nepthan.
Wife aggro. It's okay.
Did you use your aggro dump?
Not really. She left by herself.
She left me.
Well, I got the monitor now for the baby, so that's not really a baby, but we'll see how that works out.
What about you then, Naps? What's been going on? How did you find your way into this game? Where did you come from before?
Big gamer when I was little, and I used to always make fun of people who played or who paid subscriptions. And I said I would never do that unless there was a Star Wars game. So I got into Star Wars Galaxies pretty heavily back in college. And when that kind of went down the toilet, I jumped into WoW because it just made sense to keep going with the MMO thing. Played WoW for a few years, had a good time. But when SWTOR got announced, I said, all right, when that comes out, I'm going all the way into SWTOR. So, was in beta, been here since launch. I looked for a guild at the time, and I told myself I need to find a guild that caters to an adult with a family, because I figured I'd have one eventually. And I found Old Republic Dads. It was great, a ton of people, great community. So I joined them up, and it's been going great with them. I became the GM 3 years ago ish, about 3 years in January.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Good times. I got involved in podcasting. The former host of Old Republic Radio had me on a couple times before they stopped the show, and kind of caught the bug. And when I brought it back since then. So that's all I've been doing really, is playing way too much Star Wars, the Old Republic, and podcasting on the side, I guess you could say. But having a blast.
Let me ask you a quick question as well, as another quick aside here. You said that you were looking for a guild that catered to you specifically. How important is a guild for you in terms of MMO content?
Well, for me, the guild, especially right now, is a lot of why I log in. Yeah. I think if you have a great group of friends online who you can play with, it doesn't really matter what you're doing as long as you're enjoying yourself with the company.
Yeah,
I've never been much of a solo player, even though I do level solo. It's a ton of fun just getting a group of people and just doing whatever you can. So it's a big deal for me to have a nice, not necessarily a huge guild, but a decently sized guild to clown around with.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really shocked me, because my first game was WoW, and I'd played on Alliance side first of all. Forgive me, I'm sorry, we all make mistakes. Then I re-rolled for the Horde, went full Locktar Ogar, and I joined the guild that actually had TeamSpeak, and I was like, what is this TeamSpeak you're talking about? What is this magic? And I went on there, and it was staggering how different it was, just kind of like leveling whilst talking to people and having that kind of banter and camaraderie with fellow players. And once I played in that, I kind of then said, I will never play a game like this without that, because it makes such a huge difference to your experience. It's good to know I'm not alone. We're all social creatures here, yeah?
There's two of us.
Mine has got his cat, I guess. He just sits there stroking his cat. First you get the data, then you get the mining, then you get the women. Stroking his cat, slowly rotating on his chair, yeah?
$1 million.
All right, guys, so we're going to go into the first section here, which is getting to know the people behind the scenes and asking them some questions about how they got involved with it, why they do it, and some stuff you may be interested in. If you have any questions in chat, check them in. If they aren't terrible, I might read them out. So, Miner, we'll start off with you. Seeing as you are the most famous, you're so famous, you are inside famous. You are the infamous SWTOR Miner. Loved by some, hated by some, admired by all. But how did you get into data mining? It seems like a weird thing to get involved with. I don't even know how you would go about. You just wake up one day and go, do you know what? I'm going to go and mine some data.
Yeah, kind of. I've pretty much torn apart everything I've owned since I was a kid. And I wanted to see how it worked.
You want to get rid of that cat quickly. Could someone call the RSPCA before you get started on that cat?
No. I don't own the cat, okay? You can't own the cat.
The cat owns you.
No, it's a free spirit. He lives here. It's his forever home. Okay? You don't own a cat. That's just the way I feel about it. But no, I tore apart everything, and then it sort of worked its way when I got my first computer. Worked its way into that. So that's how I got involved with data mining. And then one day, before 2.0 came out, I decided I wanted to know what the heck that was coming in 2.0, because it hadn't really told us anything. And the PTS builds were there. You couldn't log in, but they gave the builds out. So I said, hey, look, maybe I'll crack it open, find something.
And you did.
And the rest is SWTOR history.
So what was your, I know you said you like tinkering, but was there any really other motivation other than just a frustration of a lack of information coming from BioWare?
No, I'm curious by nature with that sort of stuff. I want to see how stuff works. I would like to know how it works, what's going on behind the scenes. But that's really all it is to it.
So it's just inquiry minds need to know how things work. Yeah, that's the fundamentals behind it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you decided that you wanted to do this and you wanted to go and seek the information yourself, what were the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome to actually get to that juicy data?
Surprisingly, there were very few. Back in beta, a lot of people had laid the groundwork for the future data mining tools by figuring out how the game stores different kinds of data and how to get it at it. And for the most part, most of the heavy lifting had been done by these guys, and really, I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants. You know.
Okay.
Uh,
Because one of the things that's kind of always confused me, because this whole data mining stuff is a bit like witchcraft. I mean, listening to you and Potato talk, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I wouldn't have the first idea where to start with this, so explain to me like I'm 5. How do you go about doing this stuff? No,
all right. Well,
without any proprietary information here, mind. I know what you like.
all right. So the game comes with a lot of information in the game, a lot of stuff how to run it. SWTOR is kind of unique in this regard in that the way the engine's programmed, a lot of the stuff that's normally just found on the server is also found in the client,
Okay.
which is really odd. But apparently that has to do with each game client, when they were developing it, would allow you to modify the game's systems on the go, and you could run in your own version of the game on your local end.
Yeah.
They've since disabled a lot of that stuff, but it's still like the game is running a little mini version of the server on your local computer.
Right.
And that's what simulates a lot of stuff that goes on. In fact, some of the stuff is actually in 4.0 is actually happening on your local computer and not coming from the server. Like when they made the change to strongholds.
Okay.
Remember how they had a 25 NPC limit before?
Yeah.
Because the server was simulating all the NPC's behavior. They changed them to a different class NPC that's not simulated by the server, and it's all simulated on the client end. And then they offloaded all that extra simulations time from the server.
Okay. Okay. I understand some of those words.
So, yeah.
All right. So, in terms of your interactions with the community, how do you feel the community at large views you? Because I've seen some very mixed responses.
It really depends. Like, they either love me. I've gotten fan mail from people before. People like sending me tips if they've got an inside line on something. Other people kind of hate me, and then there's this third group of people that, who's that miner guy? Oh, is he like Potato?
Shots fired at Potato. You get fan mail. I like to think that you come home some days and there's a big sack of mail with
Not as
dirty
much.
underwear on there and flowers. We love you, Potato. Oh, miner, brother.
It's really odd coming across people discussing minor stuff in game or in communities and having to be like, yeah, that guy's kind of cool. I like that stuff. I heard that.
You should start a rumor about yourself just to see what happens. Well, have you ever come across someone talking shit about you in the game?
Yes.
What would they say? I want to hear this story. What were they saying about you?
It's happened a few times, and they're like, "Oh, that guy can't be trusted. How you listen to them data miner guys? They've been wrong before." And just there's one guy that got really mad at me. I'm trying to remember what he got mad at me for. But I had
Christmas.
released something. Probably no,
Because you ruined Christmas.
that's another story altogether. But okay, we're saving that one. That one's in the notes. Okay. No, they got mad at me for revealing something. And it's just like, why do you care so much? You know, it just was, it's a little odd. It was some minor detail that got revealed.
Whoop. Minor detail.
It's a minor detail.
It's a major minor detail.
Okay.
Oh.
I have a legitimate semi-serious question for you.
Yeah.
Because you're blatantly breaking the TOS. What you do is against the terms of service.
Yeah.
So how would you justify doing that?
Look, that terms of service contains a lot of stuff in it that isn't necessarily meant to be enforceable. It's just there to scare you away from doing a lot of stuff. And honestly speaking, we've had this sort of situation with other games before, like with WoW. They didn't like data mining at first. In fact, it was against their terms of service to do this. But now they're featuring videos and content from the data miners themselves.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, like, what happened there to that relationship. They understood that it was helpful to them for people to have sources of information outside of their own. And it was extra work that didn't have to be done, that could be offloaded to the community. by them, which I think SWTOR is really struggling with. If they could offload some of this work to the community, if they give an API for some of the stuff, like you saw how many people latched onto their leaderboards when they put the PvP stuff, and people asked for an API, and they sort of gave them a little bit. And you've seen the amounts of data that people like Potato, and then
UC, I think they did, didn't
UC did the other ones, and then you also have Tio's done some analysis too. Like you've seen the analysis that they've done, and it's great analysis that they just couldn't do in house.
I'm not sure that it's great analysis because the actual results was pretty negative all around for everything.
Yeah, but it was nice to see that data in those formats. You could pick out trends and stuff.
But do you think that's why they aren't so open with it, because they want to control the flow of information to portray themselves in the most positive lights?
They are extremely sensitive about sharing any information. Oh, and I can understand to a certain point. Like, you don't want to share the bad information. Like, okay, studios may not be making as much money, and we may not have as much subscribers as, people think we do. But it's going to get out there. Like, it's best to be open, I feel.
Can't stop the signal, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can't stop the signal.
Okay.
Well, you can. It's just like you can't. You could hide the truth. You could bury it, but it always comes back to bite you in the end.
Okay. Have you had any negative experiences as a result of your data mining, apart from several stressful conversations with me?
Well, we had the one negative experience that's up next. Do we want to discuss that one? And just sort of
No, we'll leave that one separately.
Okay. Not really. No.
You don't get hate mail, just fan mail.
Just fan mail. I don't think I get a lot of hate mail. I said the couple of guys are a little mad at me sometimes.
But let me ask you your stance on this as well, because this is something you haven't done historically, so let me get your opinion on this. What about leaking the story side of things? The story spoilers, because that isn't something historically you've done.
Well, but there wasn't really a lot to story to be leaked before 4.0. It was sort of, the story was there, but it was sort of like, second fiddle to the rest of the game going, and people wanted the content, and rightfully so. Story is like the icing on the cake. Like, it's nice that it's there, but you need the cake to support it, because after you eat so much icing, you go into diabetic shock and die.
Confirmed story kills, yeah. Kiss your left foot goodbye.
Kiss your left foot goodbye. No, it's the icing on the cake, not the cake itself.
Okay, that's a kind of a slightly different point, I guess, and I imagine we can touch on that later if you remind me as to what qualifies as actually being meaningful content, because there seems to be a bit of a disparity between what BioWare is saying and what the community at large is saying on that one. But my last question directly for you, and this is a follow-on from the interview that Tio had with Kimi. How much money do you make each month selling your stolen skins on the Second Life store? And what's it like being on the no-fly list, you Christmas-ruining, Christmas-torn fuck?
Well, I may not be able to buy a gun here shortly.
What?
Yeah, they want to restrict the no-fly list people from being able to purchase firearms in the United States. Out of all the other things, like it's not fixed the no-fly list, and from crazy, ridiculous people being able to put people on it. But no, what he's referring to is somebody got it into their heads that I ruined Life Day by data mining Red-Nosed Tauntaun early, which did not require data mining to be viewed on the same day in game. But apparently it's my fault because I was first.
Well, I hope you burn in hell, Miner, because you ruined Christmas. We could be walking around right now on our Christmas Tauntauns, and because of you, we can't.
Well, it's a little lukewarm down here.
Oh. I thought you smelled bad on the outside.
I do smell bad on the outside.
No regrets. All right, so let's move over to Kuze here, because Kuze, you're a relatively new addition on your TORCommunity. How long have you been doing it for now?
Oh, well, I started
as a regular guest.
As a regular guest. I don't know, somewhere in the early '80s of the TORCommunity.
In the early '80s? What, you've been doing it for?
I've been doing it for a while. Well, in the episodes of the TORCommunity.
What are they on now?
237, I think, was the last one.
Oh wow, okay, so quite a long time then.
Yeah, but they were just video tips and things
Okay.
similar to what Knight does. Then I started posting Datacron videos, and shortly, and I raided with him for a while.
Yeah.
And when I actually became a regular guest was, I think, soon after Red had left. Red went off to do his other podcast and stuff, and I think Tio and Chill wanted to change up the format of the show and just have random people come on, and that's when I started inviting.
It's a tough act to follow, yeah.
Yeah.
So, when the Godfather reached out to you and said, "Hey, Kuze, gonna make you an offer you can't refuse," how did that meeting go down? Was it just like, "Do you want to come on regularly," or was it just
Well, he never really said regularly. He just said, would you like to be on this week's show?" And I was a little bit surprised and kind of excited, nervous, I'm nervous every time I come on any podcast, even this one. And just came on and decided to try to give what I could back to the community.
It is probably worth
whatever.
mentioning that going on OtiniCast is actually quite nerve-wracking. Not because, I mean, I've done loads of podcasts and I generally don't really care that much anymore, but I don't know what it is about that show, because they're so well respected and they've never really done anything which has been detrimental. They've all been very polite and professional, whilst being relatively objective. I was there and I had like don't swear, just don't swear. Can't swear in front of Dad, it's just that whole thing. It's quite nerve-wracking, that you don't want to say anything out of line, so I understand the pressure you're under. But in terms of OtiniCast, what do you think that you bring to the table that it didn't have before? So Red left, so the angry guy goes, what do you fill in? What do you bring that he didn't have?
Well, speaking to OtiniCast itself and what you're saying, yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Sometimes I would feel bad for someone being somewhat negative towards SWTOR. When I would come on the reason why I started listening to OtiniCast and stuck with them for so long is because they were so positive, and I want to hear something that is hopeful about the game, and it keeps me going because I love playing and stuff like that. And throughout the years, I've kind of been going downhill, so now I'm kind of on the opposite side of that. I'm more concerned about fixing things and getting things done so I can go back to loving the game.
It's been an interesting show to follow, because I followed it for quite a long period of time. Because initially you are right, they were very kind of like happy clappy, everything is great, everything is awesome, woo. But over time they have become not more cynical, but a lot more objective in pointing out the flaws in the game and being a lot more level-headed towards it, which is why I actually enjoy the show a bit more now than I did previously. So I think certainly the things that you bring up, the thing I like when I watch it live is like, okay, now over to Kuze, and I can just like rustle in, pen and paper comes out, use a pad. All right, this is what I think this week, and you've got like an itinerary of points to go through. I mean, does that take a lot of time to go through? I mean, how seriously do you take these appearances?
Oh, I wish I actually had something written down before I started the show. It's a rare occasion. He puts out show notes ahead of time, and sometimes I'll populate them with the information I want to talk about. But most of the time I get off topic. And half the time when I listen back to the show, I'm like, I can't believe I said that, because it was either wrong, or I can't believe that I didn't mention all these other things that I wanted to actually mention on there when I was there. So I do miss a lot of information I think about beforehand when I'm on the show.
Okay, so have you adjusted to becoming a international superstar now?
Oh, it's great. People send me, love mail and all kinds of stuff. No, it's kind of fun. I think the Twitter portion of the community, I think I'm really involved with. I'm not much of a social media person. I don't have Facebook. I just had to download Skype today just so I can get on this, and I'll probably delete it after we're done, because I don't want Skype on my computer for some reason. It's always popping up and shit. But the Twitter side of it, it's really fun. Keep getting followers and keep meeting new people. It's entertaining.
Becoming kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I'm almost up to 300.
You're getting there. What's been the most positive experience you've had from being on OtiniCast so far?
I don't know. I guess just meeting the group at OtiniCast and my raid team is really the most positive experience. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be here right now. As far as in game in SWTOR, I would be gone. It really is the last thing that's holding me down to SWTOR, is meeting up with those guys. Even if it's just, we only play once a week now for like 2 hours, so we're really not doing too much. But that one day a week is really what's holding me on to the game.
Any negative experiences, or no? Carry on, finish your sentences. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say because we're not most of the time when we're in game, it's more of a place to meet than actually what we're doing. We're talking about politics and all kinds of crazy stuff. Negative wise, no, I don't think there's really been too much negative with the game. I kind of, if there was, I push it to the side and I don't remember. It's really nothing negative.
Okay. And is it true? I've heard a rumor that if someone can kill Tio and cut out his heart while it's still beating, they actually get to absorb his cheekbones and make it into their own body. Is that true?
Well, they're planning on taking a trip down to Australia, I think, next year. Maybe I should jump on that trip and find out for myself. So
Don't
if you
kill
see me,
Oh, that's a death wish, mate. You're gonna. If you take a shot at the king, you best not miss.
that's right.
He's like Kaiser Soze mixed with a Highlander.
Now
But,
you're on the no-fly list, Kuze.
Yeah. Shit. Well, I'll just drive to Miner's house and we can hang out.
One last question. I've heard that, I think it was on the last episode of Cast, they said that Chill got his black belt.
Oh yeah, he was doing that. I think it's in between shows, but yeah, he was working on getting his black belt.
So he's a martial artist. How many Muscos do you think it would take to take down one Chill? What's the Musco to Chill ratio in a fist fight?
Ooh, I'm thinking there's going to be 20 Muscos to Chill.
So you go to the 20 to 1 ratio.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big differential there.
Musco's a tiny guy. I don't know how much damage he can do to Chill. We'll see.
I guess that's the new question. Would you rather fight one Chill side Musco or 20 Musco sized Chills? For the new one we can do. Alright, cheers, but let's move over to Nepthan then, whose name I've misspelled about 20 times so far on this show. And I'm slowly correcting them as I go along. You remember the old, oh my god, Miner, stop typing, Jesus Christ!
My bad.
Nepthan, now that claggity has stopped you, are you using like an old-fashioned typewriter? What are you using?
It's a Black Widow Ultimate, you know? I'm playing WoW over here.
Stop it. What was your motivation to start your own podcast? Because there's a wide variety of podcasts available. So what would you one bring to the table that's different to the other ones? Or is your opinion just better than everyone else's?
Isn't everyone's opinion the better opinion?
Well, I know mine's the best, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't actually start Overbrook Radio. I was actually on it when Jinx was the host, and then it was gone for a year. And I found myself always talking to anyone who would listen really outside of the game. And I thought, yeah, maybe I can bring it back and I'll be in charge of it. Yeah, why not? You know, so I gathered some people that I have spent hours talking to about the game anyway and said, hey, you want to come on the show? And they obviously said yes because they're on the show with me. And as far as what I wanted to bring, I think my biggest thing was that I want to be myself on the show. So if I think something is terrible, I'm going to say it's terrible, and I'm not really going to care if people get upset with me having an opinion. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and, trash everything.
It is quite staggering, right, how upset people get whenever someone in the SWTOR community says anything bad, though. Mm-hmm. It's like you're only allowed to say, it's like, you can't say bad things. What are you doing?
Yeah, they're listening to you. Yeah, it's like, but, if there's a huge, like the exploit stuff, people are saying, oh, we shouldn't talk about it. Why not? Because it's terrible. They need to get that addressed. And class imbalances. People tend to forget these little things that are actually pretty important to certain aspects of the game. And I have no problem saying all my little snide comments about Mandos being overpowered when they were, and power attacks and all that stuff. And I don't know, we just didn't want to have a show that we wanted to say what we wanted to say about the game. And if 10 people think it's fun, then that's fine enough for us.
Okay. So tell me a bit about your guild, the Old Republic Dads. So I'm guessing there's a lot of Old Republic dads in there, but do you let mothers in too, or are you a massive sexist? Check your privilege, mate.
We do have women in the guild. We don't have an alt guild called Old Republic Moms, so there was a discussion to create that. The guild itself was started by two gentlemen, Larry and Leland, who they wanted a place where you could group up with people, and then if your kid gets sick and you have to leave, no one's going to freak out and give you crap for it.
Oh, hang on a second. You're telling me that you would stop raiding if your kid was sick? What kind of casual approach to raiding is this? It makes your kid tougher. Tough love.
There's been a few times where I was in the middle, actually, Fabricator.
Yeah.
I was doing Fabricator a long time ago, and my son woke up and he was freaking out for whatever reason. Kids wake up and freak out for. And my wife came into my office and she's like, here. And I said, I gotta go, guys. I'll be right back. Mid-fight. I didn't care. I came back and we all died because I wasn't there to help. And you know what? The thing is though, they said, "Hey, how's your son?"
Yeah.
Like no one said, "About time, dude. How long did it take you to get back? You know, what's your kid's problem?" So, and then we raised up and we won.
I would love that though. If there's one guy going, "God damn it, Nepthan, sort your kid out, man. Sort his immune system out. Feed him more greens. What are you feeding that kid? He's always sick. God damn it, we've wept 3 times tonight because of your kid."
Maybe one person was probably under their breath thinking, "Kids, But what are you going to do?" And people in my raid group and people throughout the entire guild, they have problems. Things come up.
Yeah.
Kids get sick. You get sick. Your wife gets sick. Real life intervenes. And
where do you live with all these people getting sick all the time? Are you in some kind of
America, man,
suburb outside Chernobyl or something? What?
Not everyone gets sick at the same time. Well, I hope not. So yeah, that's the whole basis of the guild. You're not going to be punished for having responsibilities outside of your raid group.
Yeah.
And it's worked out very well. We have a pretty established guild. People know us on the Shadowlands. I hope they know us for us being nice. But yeah, it's just a great guild, and it's probably the best guild I've ever been a part of.
Have you ever had a guild meetup, just like a sea of tweed jackets and khakis?
No, we definitely discussed it. We are, as you can be, it's probably obvious that we are strewn across the U.S. and we have some people across the seas. I think we have someone put a Google map on our website where you can tell you where you live, and it's kind of cool seeing where all the little dots are.
Yeah. Oh, that is cool.
I have met a few people in the guild though. I met a couple when I went to New York. I actually live very close to Ufalong. He's actually in our guild too. He's where his "I'm bored, let's go raid with these guys" kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I hope you heard that. We haven't had an official meetup, and if we did, I'd make it in Ohio because that's where I live. Because I'm a little selfish like that. But it'd be kind of great. But it's a lot to ask people to travel or drive or fly.
Yeah,
Don't do it at a
say hi.
cantina.
No.
On
New York was fun.
Slightly more serious now with the guild side of things, because you mentioned how important it is to you playing. How important do you think it is when you're looking for a guild to get one that actually meets specifically what you want? Have a criteria in your head of what you want? A lot of the time I see guild adverts is like, we've done X, Y, and Z in the game, come and join us. But it doesn't actually tell you anything about the guild itself. It's just, we do stuff, come and do stuff with us.
Yeah, the personality of the guild I think is very important. If you're a certain gamer, you don't want to end up strewn with a bunch of people who are completely unlike you. And just like your group of friends in real life, you kind of want a group of friends online that are like you and have the same, not necessarily views on real world stuff, but views in gaming. If you want to be crazy hardcore raiding, you shouldn't join a casual guild that doesn't really care if you wipe in story mode, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a PvPer, you probably shouldn't join a PvE guild. So it's a very important thing that you find the guild that fits what you want to do in game, because you'll probably end up having more fun, and you'll probably end up doing things that you wouldn't think you would want to do because the guild is so great.
Yeah. That's very true. I mean, on the subject of guild, because this is something I think is often overlooked in MMOs. Do you think a lot of the changes they're making now is going to, in the long term, hurt the guild community?
I think, to an extent, yes. Obviously, the raiding guilds, I think, are suffering the most.
Yeah.
PvP guilds probably as well, although you guys have been dealing with this crap for years, so maybe not. And as far as the social aspects of the guild, if your guild's strong enough, you don't need the new content, right?
Yeah.
I do worry about, at least with our guild, with my guild, if people trickle out because of lack of content, I don't want it to start some kind of a floodgate kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I see aspects of other guilds online, whether through reading the forums or Reddit, people are having this trouble too, that, it's hard to keep a group together, especially if that group's focused around one thing, like raiding, for example, if there's no promise of raids coming.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm biased towards raiding because that's what I do. But I think a lot of people I've seen on Twitter and Reddit and everything say that they're still playing a game because of their guild. So that can take you only so far.
Yeah.
I think the game has to give back to the guild instead of just the guild saying, hey, let's all group up. Because if the guild's so great, you can always go play another game together.
That's very true. I remember reading a study years ago from WoW where they polled people who were unhappy with the game, and they asked them why they were still playing. And I believe it was something in the high 70%, or 70-ish% said they only play the game because of the people in the guild. That was the only reason why they said, which is a huge percentage to do it for that reason. Which makes that's the kind of thing that concerns me, because I think you are right. Like, giving you an example, if you have a really good group of friends, you can generally sit around in someone's front room doing nothing and still have a relatively good time. But if you do that every single day, there will come a point where someone's going to go, look, I want to do something other than this. We can do it together, but I want to do something else. And then that's when you start fragmenting off, and that's when things start going down the slippery slope, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But with your guild, have you found that running a podcast alongside it has been helpful for you, or has it been a hindrance?
It's not really a hindrance as far as like running the guild or anything. My guild's pretty self-sufficient. I don't need to do a whole lot because the personality of the guild is so great that we don't have to worry about unnecessary drama, right?
Yeah.
The podcast along with the guild it's fun because obviously I have guild mates who can talk to me on Mumble whenever they want. Say, hey, that was a really great podcast, or hey, you guys need to. I didn't agree at that point there. I do like it when there are guildies who say, I keep listening to you guys, but I keep trying to interject because I'm used to you being on Mumble where I can say, hey, no, you're dumb, shut up. So that's actually a lot of fun to have the two.
There's some guy in Colorado
side by side
watching your podcast screaming at the computer, God damn it, Nap, shut up!
Wait till I see him on Tuesday. I'm going to tell him what I think. Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. Nothing. It's not holding us any side of anything back, really.
Okay, and with each show then, do you have a process to come up with the ideas for each show, or is it just whatever happens?
I do have notes. We don't I don't just call everyone and say, all right, guys, let's talk about random stuff. But we usually talk about all the yellow posts, of course. That's very simple stuff to talk about. And as far as like talking points, Alex and Mike and I are very bad about staying on topic. So a lot of times our shows end up longer than they're supposed to be because we just don't shut up about things. As far as like, extra topics that we talk about, I kind of watch the community, and sometimes some dev posts really help with topics. Like tonight's is going to be a lot of fun. And obviously, if the guys have something they want to talk about, we can just start talking about whatever, and we talk about what we do in like rating more than anything. Just when we get past certain things, we'd like to talk about it and give our perspective, but. So I guess it's kind of structured, but it's also winged at the same time, if you can do the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, of course you can. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
I wrote all these notes 2 hours ago whilst kind of like crying into my dressing gown because I was so hungover. The best kind of show.
I will say I've picked up Old Republic Radio again. I've kind of went through in the beginning when you guys were on for, when you were talking about what Jinx started it, and then it had a lull for a year or something like that, and just recently picked it back up again, and I've been enjoying it. It's been good.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
Do you two want to get a room or something? Should we leave you two alone so you can make out? I can move your cameras together.
We can. Yeah. Can you switch us around a little bit? Get us closer together.
So Naps, I've read some references on Twitter that you were somewhat of an elitist. I couldn't tell whether this was a joke or whether you are actually elitist. So I thought I'd ask you: is that true for a start? And what does that word actually mean to you?
I think elitist is I call myself elitist, but I'm not a jerk. I have low tolerance for. Basically, my theory is if you say you can do something, you don't do it all the time, it drives me nuts, right? Yeah. But I'm not going to walk into a room where people are playing or walk into a chat and start like going crazy about stuff. I have a raid group in my guild that I can act like kind of an ass about raid mechanics and everything, and everyone knows that. But outside of that group, if you want my opinion, I'll give it to you. Otherwise, I have to sit there and have fun. As far as the whole elitist, I think elitist is more of how you approach a game. I mean, I have a podcast. I'm a GM. I've been playing since launch. I do way more filling with my stats and my characters than I probably should.
Yeah.
And I watch numbers more than that. I watch videos, I watch streams, so it's kind of I'm so engrossed in the game that that's just my personality and that's how it comes out. But I'm actually a pretty nice guy.
Do you think that elitism is a word which is often bandied around as an insult by people who just don't really get the perspective of the players who are doing it?
Yeah, I think to an extent it's kind of seen as an insult. I'm not insulted by it because I don't have any problem being who I am online.
Yeah.
And the group of guys I play with and my guild in general know who I am. And it's like, yeah, he's kind of nuts about Sentinels, but talk to him. He's actually pretty cool, and he and he's from the, I raid with anyone I can raid with in the guild, or outside the guild. I don't care if it's a pug or whatever.
Yeah.
And pugs really, I usually have to have something to drink while I'm.
I just saw the expression on your face change when you said pugs. It's like, maybe that isn't true.
I'll hop in, and it's like, why aren't you healing? You're a healer. And I've done that. I said, hey, it helps if you heal.
Yeah.
Like, my Sentinel heals aren't going to keep the group alive. Not anymore. They nerfed them.
I saw a great cartoon. It's like a little comic strip I saw a while ago, which kind of summed up the whole attitude that people seem to have these days towards elitism and how it's been panned. Like the word is thrown around, and it's basically a guy challenges his friend to a game of tic-tac-toe, and his friend kind of just puts places things all over the place. He doesn't play the game properly, and he just says, look, you know how to play this. What are you doing? And then the friend responds, oh my God, you're such a try-hard. I do this for fun. I'm not, life, that kind of stuff. I feel that's the approach sometimes. You say something very minor towards someone, and they just, oh my God, no life. I play this for fun. I don't get that as a rebuttal towards anything. When it's a basic tip, essentially. Because even when I'm being nice to people, I get that response.
People really hate unsolicited advice, even if it's something simple as you should.
Well, I didn't ask for that advice, so I'm going to take offense to that.
Well, hey, I don't care because I say what I want to say. Right?
So, in your overall experience with the community at large, how would you describe that? Just in a little summary, dealing with the SWTOR community.
It's been interesting. This was the first game I've always been involved with where I put myself out there on Twitter and I have a podcast so people can hear me and can, actually say, no, you're wrong. The community in general was great. I've had no issues with anyone. I think that everyone I've met, both in real life, because at the cantina, for example, and everyone who I've talked to through direct message on Twitter or Reddit, they've all been really great. I think there are obviously a couple bad apples in every in every community, but I think the majority of the community has been great to me, so I have no problem with anyone.
Excellent. Well,
except for you, Snave, because I offended you.
Fuck you, Nepth. And so, moving on to the next section, this is section 2. So this is the community section. What we're going to be doing here is talking around the major events that have impacted and influenced SWTOR over the last month or so. So we've got a lot of big topics to go through here, and I'm expecting some interesting opinions. Everyone strap yourself in. And we'll start this off with Hypegate. Not Hypergates, the Hypegate. So Kuze, let's get your thought on Hypegate. Or do you have an empty glass? You want to go and get a drink?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
It's just coffee. It's nothing important. If it was a beer, I might have to take a quick.
Is there whiskey in it?
No, I should have put some.
Can I tell you what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks? I bought. Did you have Bailey's in America?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So just replace all the milk that you have in your house with Bailey's. Whatever you use milk for, use Bailey's instead. I guarantee you, your quality of life will go through the roof.
I had a friend. He went to this restaurant with his wife, and he ordered Bailey's and coffee. And the waitress brought out coffee and a bay leaf. And then the cook came out, and the cook crossed his arms in front of him. He's like, "Yeah, I want to see what you're going to do with this." And he's looking at him like, "No, Bailey's Irish cream. Let's go." Anyways,
what are your thoughts on the whole Hypegate situation? Oh, I should probably just to clarify for what this is. So going back, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? I can't remember the exact date. Sorry. SWTOR announced on Twitter they did this big campaign that unprecedented news is coming, guys. Unprecedented hype, unprecedented rewards for subscribers. This has never been seen before. You will literally shit the bed when you see this news. It is unbelievable. And the news was you get HK55 back, who's the companion who died along the story. Spoilers. And if you sub for 8 months consecutively, so from December till August, you also get a chapter where you play as HK55. And the general reception for this was pretty negative, to be mild. So what are your thoughts on the whole process, Kuze?
it still stands from pretty much what I said on a TeenyCast, which was if they wouldn't have hyped it up, they would have just simply said, okay, you know, we have some announcements coming out. It's state of the game. We have some subscriber rewards that we want to give out and whatever else. And they just left it as a plain announcement, dev stream. And they came onto the stream. They announced all the subscriber rewards. And it's kind of funny that they released this information afterwards, but I said when I was on TeenyCast, if they would have just said, okay, here's all the subscriber rewards, this is what we're going to do for events over the next few months. Oh, and by the way, we have a new PvP map coming, and drop the mic, the whole community would have been totally opposite. Everything would have been exploded with happiness. People they would have really appreciated it. But the way that they did it was just absolutely wrong. I don't know why they decided to hype up some HK stuff. And the thing that kind of bothers me also with that, going to the subscriber rewards, is that some people feel the hatred is because we're not appreciative for those items. But it's not that we're not appreciative for those things. Extra stuff was always great.
Yeah.
Please give me extra stuff whenever you get the chance. But the problem is that they don't have a chance, or shouldn't have a chance, to give us extra stuff, because they should be doing other things. There's a ton of stuff in game that needs to be either fixed, quality of life changes, PvE, PvP stuff needs to be done. That's what they should have spent their time doing, instead of trying to make up this stuff. Now, I'll be the first one to say I like HK. I have HK 51, but HK 55 was cool. I even said when he, spoiler, died in the story, I was like, man, I wish I had a quest I could go back and get him back. So it kind of fits, my thoughts in game, but I still would rather do without that if they would spend their time elsewhere.
As a quick aside on the whole HK55 coming back thing, I mean, I'm the same as you. I liked HK55. Actually, he's the only companion that I had any interest in whatsoever in this entire expansion. Actually, the rest I thought were quite cliched and boring, especially Koth, the space neo-Nazi. The part of it that I found a little bit off-putting was choices matter. Story matters, choices matter. Now, granted, we didn't have a choice to save or kill HK55, but he died in the storyline. But now, if you pay money, you can retcon that story, and you can get him back. And I find that to be a very weird thing for them to do. Because what happens? Let's give you another example. Let's say they give you a Sophie's Choice, right? You can either save Senya or Koth. Okay, that's probably an easy decision for anyone who isn't a Nazi, but if you pick one, that choice should remain with you in the game. And it's a pretty easy, it's a give me this choice matters type thing, a lot like Mass Effect. If they've done this before, though, how many people will be thinking, there'll probably be an item in the cartel market, I can get them back anyway. Or, there'll probably be a quest where if I sub, I can get them back anyway. Do you think it devalues their overall stance that choices matter?
Well, if you've played both sides of the story already, there's already options like that currently in the story that, somebody's going to die if you don't do this, but you turn around if you do it or don't do it. It doesn't matter. Everything just kind of still progress. Now, they said later on that those choices will come back to haunt you, so we'll see.
Yeah, whatever.
My thought is that they already had planned for HK55 to come back. I would think that that's what they were planning to begin with.
Okay, well, do you think they did it in a bit of a sneaky way then, where they thought, okay, what we're going to do is make a good character, we're going to take him away, and then we're going to paywall him?
That's a very likely possibility.
That's super cynical, isn't it? How cynical are we?
Yeah.
But like, you guys, the paywall that they're putting behind is like the cost of an entire game. Like, if you went off to buy, it's more than the cost of the entire, because it's 8 months.
You get him back anyway. You get him back as a companion, don't you? If you in January, but you have to subscribe for 8 months to get the playable mission.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can. I agree with Miner and everybody else's opinions. You can look at it in two different ways. Either you're paying all this money to get this content, or it should just be extra stuff, because you should be loving and playing the game to begin with. But the way that they've pitched it is almost pretty much what Miner kind of alludes to. And if it is a solo player game that they're going to, he's right. I mean, why wouldn't I just go out and buy a $60 game and then only pay for the expansions every time they come out and just play the solo game? I mean, it's less money than HK55.
Get Fallout 4 with a HK55 mod. Boom, problem solved.
Yeah, like, you're talking about how they're announcing the extra stuff, and we're talking about value, and then, like, they've only announced the extra stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, they're talking about the icing again, and there's no cake. It's like, gotta give us the cake. What's the cake that we're going to get?
I think me and you have a long talk about your obsession with cake, Miner. That's not to worry about you.
I don't actually,
By the end of the stream, you're just going to be screaming cake into your webcam.
They're not giving us the substance to look forward to. They're giving us the rewards. Like, they've announced subscriber rewards for what? Like 8 months now, pretty much. So they haven't announced exactly what they are, but you're getting them. Okay, where's that chart for showing the operations?
Yeah.
Okay, where's that chart for showing the PvP maps? When's the chart showing the class balance changes? Like, okay, they've got a schedule. They got to have an internal schedule. So they just dropped the extra stuff on us. Why not give us all of it?
So that paywall wouldn't be that big of a deal if we had the foundation to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
To-
I
to
agree
buy-
with that. I agree
Yeah, I
with
think
that.
we all
And
agree with that.
I agree with the icing and cake analogy as well, for all my joking aside. But let me ask you, because the one argument I've seen that's kind of relevant for this is, if you're going to sub for that amount of time anyway, then this is really irrelevant. It's just extra stuff. You know, if you're the kind of person who, you shouldn't look at it as an incentive to sub, you should look at it as a reward for something that you're going to do to begin with.
Correct.
Do you kind of buy into that one, or do you think no?
I think, yeah, I get that point of view, but I'm still subbed right now, at least for the moment, because of the content that I knew was coming. Right. I didn't unsub in the summertime because I wanted coffee. So I said, well, all this stuff's coming.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep subbing. But this whole thing with you should be subbed anyway, and you're just getting a bonus. Well, what am I sub for?
Yeah, I
Because
agree with that.
the whole cake thing again, right? There's I know stories coming, sure, but what else?
I tell you the reason why this didn't sit well for me. Because, I mean, first of all, I don't particularly care about HK55 as a companion or as a playable mission for 10 minutes. It's going to be pretty underwhelming. It's going to be a little bit of flavor. Brilliant, fantastic. It's nice, but it's not something I particularly care about. The problem I've got with this is a classic sales tactic of bait and switch, where say you got to buy a car, and you go, and the guy says, oh yeah, here you go, use your car, yada yada. You drive around, and he says, okay, I want to buy that car, and he says, okay, well the car is $5,000, but if you want to have this extra and this extra and this extra, which is in the product that I showed you anyway, you have to pay on top of it over and over and over and over, and it just kind of upsells you the entire way. And it seems like they're doing that kind of process with this, where they'll show you something, they'll give you it, and then they'll take it from you, and the kind of loss aversion will make you then spend money to get it back. And I find that a very negative approach to this kind of stuff. They could have done it in a much, much better way if they'd chosen to. So, mind, I can see your eyes going here. How would you have done this differently? What were your approach?
First off, here's my problems with the way they're doing subscriber rewards. They're requiring subscriptions by X date, rather than saying, okay, if you sub for starting right now, anybody who subs for a month will get X reward on X date. Or
Yeah.
so it wouldn't have to be like that. Just say, okay, starting at this point, anybody who subs for a month gets this reward. And then month 2 is this reward, month 3 is that reward, month 4 is that reward. So if you could come in, say 6 months from now, and get a sub, and then be able to gain access to those rewards rather than being a one-off thing. Because that's the thing that they're saying they don't have. That's why we don't have new events and stuff. They say they can't afford to make one-off content. Well, they're making one-off content here for the subscriber reward program, when it could be a recurring thing. Like you could get your friends back in, and it could be like the extra icing on the cake every month. Okay, I got this thing on that day. I know I'm going with the cake analogy. All right, so that was my first problem with the way that they're doing this, because they basically stated unless you're subscribed for this 8-month window and only this 8-month window, you will not get access to the HK55 mission.
So you'd rather just be a flat if you sub for 8 months.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, okay. I've heard some people speaking about a monthly token system. I know you kind of get this with cartel coins anyway, but I did like this idea where if they put the some rare items or whatever on a unique vendor in the cartel area, when for every month you get a token and you can exchange X amount of tokens for X amount of features.
That was a good idea, yes.
I like that idea. I think it's
great.
Because it allows you to recycle content, and we all know they love recycling content.
I had mentioned that to him on Twitter when they asked that question. What would you like to see as subscriber rewards?
Oh, it must have been you got it from the Kuze. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, it's no big deal. It was a SWTOR reputation vendor, basically.
Yeah,
so, it's similar exactly to what mine are saying. And so, however, depending on however long you're subbed, is the rewards that you get. And that's, to me, anytime they say subscriber rewards, for some reason in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, oh, they're going to reward you for being a subscriber for so long, but in reality, it's not. It's future subscribers, not current subscribers. So
It's
I
almost
always throw myself off with that.
I've been having a discussion with SWTOR Economics, and he was supposed to be on today. And we think that the future of SWTOR is subscriber numbers. Like, if you get X subscribers, you're going to get X feature. I think EA is holding them hostage to the subscriber numbers. And it's odd because it's technically a free-to-play game, but they've been focusing so much on the subscriber part of it right now that I think that's what the EA bosses have said. Okay, you've got to get X subscribers.
See,
You
I
gotta
think
hold on.
free to play was a bad idea.
Yeah. I can't make an argument against that for you because I think free to play is bad too. But
I mean, just for me personally, WoW has got about 4 months with a sub out of me for about 3 hours worth of gameplay. Just because I've thought, oh, I want to give it a try and I want to go back into it to do X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. And there's no option for free to play, and that's money that BioWare is never going to get. Because people will just dip back in and go, it's still the same problems we had before. The reasons I left are still here. I'm going to go back again. That's the kind of issue I've got with it. But
or they could go the whole WoW route where they implement game time tokens for real money that could be sold in game. Like it would blow my mind if they don't do it in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I thought they already confirmed that was going to be a thing.
It has not been publicly confirmed. I've heard some rumors behind the scenes from people in the know, but nothing. It's all hearsay at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Imagine how that would go with exploits and everything, all their credits.
Oh, God.
I just bought 10 years worth of time for 100,000 credits. I'm done.
Can you imagine? Oh,
Give me HK 55 now.
they'd give you HK 155.
I didn't do anything wrong. They were cheap.
That's actually a legitimate problem, though, isn't it? Because maybe that's the reason why they haven't done it. And I want to come back to that in a second, because I've got some conspiracy theories about this whole exploit stuff. But my important thing about really what I want to come to with this whole Hypegate nonsense is, does any of it actually matter? I mean, do you think people will unsub or sub based around this terrible...
They've said some other stuff that I think will get more people to unsub. We're going to talk about that later.
We'll go on to that in a second.
Yeah.
But just specifically around this, do you think anyone's going to go, do you know what? That's it. I'm done. I'm not subbing now because this HK55 is a free reward. Or do you think people are going to go, oh my god, yes, I really desperately want to play HK for 10 minutes?
Well, I always think that...
Quit.
Sorry. I always think that there's with the community as a whole, to me, there's always somebody on the edge. So at any point in time, when something's said or done, that's their last nail in the coffin. So when that happened, that was probably a few people's last nail, and they just said, I'm done.
Yep, I'll take all your stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, though, isn't it? That this is how bad that went. A reward system that gives you something for free ended up losing them subs. How bad do you have to be a hype in something for that to happen? It's berserk. It blows my mind. But speaking of losing subs, let's move on to I'm going to go with the gate thing for the rest of the show, right? We got Nimgate. So this is the Nightmare Mode ops. Drop in different gear. So I can see some eyebrow movement from Nepth here. So do you want to explain what this change is, Nepth?
In the original post about operations back in, was it August or something? They mentioned that Nightmare operations would drop the same stuff that they should drop in that higher gear tokens. And at the release of Coffee, they always drop 220s, which is the hard mode stuff. And the Nightmare Raiders were saying, hey, where's our 224s? And Bioware was closed-lipped on the whole thing until last week. And Musco said, yeah, see, the operation blog was actually incorrect. You're not supposed to... There's supposed to be a chance at 224. If you want 224 guaranteed, you gotta run the highlighted hard mode. Okay. Which is terrible.
So for the layperson, what this means is the top tier of gear comes from the middle tier of raiding.
Yep.
Because you have story mode, hard mode, and then nightmare mode.
From operations that are definitely way easier than Nightmare, especially even in KP.
Okay, so my first question with this is, and I'll throw this out to you, Nepth. What are they smoking up, BioWare? Where can I buy some? Is it legal in some states? Because it seems to be the dankest kush that's available to humanity. I have no idea how this change even gets discussed, let alone greenlit.
It may be a Texas-only plant they're smoking. I don't know,
everything's bigger in Texas. Yes,
well, it's true.
Well, think about it. Actually, this all makes sense, right? Put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Taint, Musco, always hungry, always eating the sandwiches, always looking for snacks. They're basically hotboxing the entire office at BioWare Austin, running around with lightsabers, you know? This is the dream job. But in all seriousness, can anyone give me a semi-reasonable explanation as to how this makes any sense at all? Because I legitimately cannot think of one.
All right. I will walk you through the thought process. Okay, Kuze.
Go on, Kuze.
No, let mine go first this time. Go ahead.
Their thought process is this, okay? We want to gate the amount of high-level gear that we're giving out, so we're going to give it to one operation per week. Okay, that's the highlighted hard mode because it's the one that comes up per week. Now, the Nightmare they added in and added an extra chance, but the real draw they think of the Nightmare mode is the titles and mounts that everybody has farmed already because they haven't added a new operation, but that didn't enter their mind. Okay, but they say in the Nightmare mode is for the titles and mounts and a chance to get the good gear. Okay, that should satisfy them. Okay, we're good. All right, back to the cartel market here. How about a Kefis mount?
Kuze?
The only thing that seemed rational in my mind when they thought of this was, if any new operations are put out, they're not going to be put out with a Nightmare mode, and they don't want to leave future precedents for raids, as the older raids Nightmare modes are the highest things
That actually makes sense.
to get your gear. So they were trying to smooth it over with the highlighted hard mode, probably until new stuff comes out, if it comes out, and then kind of push the old Nightmare stuff off to the side. Like, I guarantee you, probably in the future they'll get rid of those those Nightmare modes for those operations, and everything will just be story and hard throughout.
So you think this is a smoothing out of an internal game system for future-proofing?
Yes.
Okay, that actually makes sense. That's a semi-reasonable explanation.
I'm not saying I agree with it.
It
It's
doesn't make
idiotic,
any sense, but yeah, no, it's a legitimate point that you could raise. So yeah, I accept that. Now, the thing that boggles my mind with this is you could have, even if it is a future system, you can always just toggle these things relatively easily. And mind you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Why didn't they just do like a highlighted Nightmare mode of the week, where it drops the top tier gear? It seems insane to me that it would drop from the middle tier.
Well, they wanted the casuals to have access to the high-end gear. Okay, because because
Those
some of
fucking
the
casuals, Nepthan, they ruin it for us elitists. God
I know, really.
damn it.
God.
they've
I'm sorry.
nerfed the crap out of them operations, but some of them are still impossible to do for, I would say, 90% of the raiding community out there.
Yeah. Now.
Isn't that the incentive to do them? Like, you don't do them because they're easy. It's Nightmare mode. It's not called Pleasant Dreams mode.
That sounds reasonable to you and me, okay? But it doesn't sound reasonable to them because they want to get people in. They say, okay, we want people to experience this content because there's story attached to it.
Okay, well, how about this then? Here's another idea, because Garrick T just typed in chat, if each boss in NIM had a combat pet drop, a unique armor shell, or a new title amount, I don't think people would be upset. I agree with that. Yeah. And why don't they do it? So you have those new pets. You have like the Nexu pet, the Yak Dog pet, the Probe Droid pet. If you put that as a chance to drop on those things, would that be like a band-aid fix that would make it worthwhile doing? Or is that, nah, we don't care about it?
They could put the old Nightmare gear back too. Because I think that stuff's gone.
Oh,
yeah.
the shells? Oh, that, yeah.
Kel Dragon stuff, isn't that gone? The vendors aren't there anymore. I'm assuming that you cannot get Kel Dragon anymore.
Can you get it from...
There's a vendor on the Gov Daragon.
It got moved.
One of the other
accepts the tokens, I thought. But I don't think it gives you the new shells.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, that's just something that if you've been raiding Nightmare for a long time, or if you farmed the hell out of it prior to 4.0, you probably have that. But any kind of incentive other than a title and amount at the end, that you're right, Snave, a lot of groups who could run Nightmare at level ran the crap out of it last expansion when we had 5 extra levels to knock it out.
Yeah.
So they have, like my group all got the wings, and we didn't run that crap at level. There were a lot of groups that just farmed the living hell out of the wings and the Rancor. So to go back in there and be challenged again is one thing, but you still got to have some kind of shiny to get that you don't already have.
SWTOR Economics had a good idea with the extra dark matter drops instead of one dropping off at each boss, maybe 2
That'd
or 3.
That'd be good too.
Which can be used in turn to build, higher tiers of gear. Or, well, actually, 220 is the highest.
Basically, what we're saying is this change is fine as long as they give something else to Nightmare to make it more worthwhile.
That's the story of this game, where if you're going to take something away from people, you got to give them something in return.
Yeah.
And they're just not doing it.
So what are the possible fallouts of this change? Because this was received probably more hostilely than the Hypegate situation, which I didn't think was possible. I've never seen so many people shit in the bed in my entire... I can work on an Ebola ward and I'd never see this many people shit in the bed at the same time.
I talked to someone that's in a guild that had 6 operations team that now has 0 after the Nightmare mode announcement.
Really? Wow.
Wow.
So that's the fallout.
Okay, well that is quite a big deal. My next question is, why is it a big deal? It's only numbers on a character, you fucking elitist pricks. But in all seriousness, it is only just a number. It's, what is it, like 5 more main stat?
Yeah, the jump from 220 to 224 is not crazy. It's useful, but everyone has the 224 main hand now. Because
the content that requires it is the Nightmare mode.
Yeah.
Santa Soa showing up.
Okay. Do you think there's a recovery mechanism in place for Bioware now to kind of regain the love and trust of the raiding community? Nepth?
Not without any kind of announcement about a new raid.
Yeah.
The Nightmare Raiders, the legit Nightmare Raiders that are still left are few and far between.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this hits a lot of them pretty hard because they can clear the content, and they still have issues, I'm sure, with some fights, or some fights are still annoying as hell, I'm sure. But they enjoy the challenge, or they wouldn't want to do it. But they also want to get the rewards, so they just feel weird to. I don't know what they could possibly do to get them back, except announce a new raid. But then, as everyone assumes, the new raids, if there is ever going to be one, they're not going to have Nightmare mode.
Okay. So the big point for this that I always kind of come back to in my head, this is very similar to the PvP situation as well. Does any of this actually matter? Because is the Nightmare community even large enough to consider in your choices, you know? They're generally content locusts. They're generally the ones who complain the loudest, that they have a lot of influence because of their skill. Is it a bad thing that they go? Kuze?
Well, pretty much as Nepthan said, that community is pretty small, but I think there's a group of people that probably have stepped up, possibly. You know, since the hard modes are easier than they were before, that they might have wanted to try out the Nightmare modes to go get that gear and have that extra bit of challenge, but now there's that incentive is gone. And the one question I have is, you know, everybody's asking why aren't they doing it? And my question is, why not? What is the serious downfall of providing Nightmare content with extra gear? There's no downfall to it at all whatsoever to have the 224 gear.
Well, I'd argue that if the Nightmare dropped 224s, people would be in full 224 gears by the end of the month, and they feel that they'll have moved on. Now, like I said, I get your point where they were saying they were going to remove the Nightmare mode in the future, and it made sense to give the highlighted hard mode.
Right.
But I think they held it back from Nightmare mode because the Nightmare modes are available all the time.
Right, and if they played an MMO at all, which I still don't think half of them play Star Wars themselves, they'll understand that if there's a highlighted hard mode, people are going to run as many alts. If they're that serious about raiding, they'll run as many alts as they can to get all tier pieces of gear, and they'll have it in a month anyways.
Yeah, the only thing maybe you'll be missing is the implant and the relics. But I know that my group killed Sola 6 times, and we only were going to raid 3 nights a week. There are some groups out there who can play raid every night. How much did they farm Sola for the main hand? How much did they farm KP when I was highlighted 2 weeks ago? And even some of the more difficult hard modes of Dare from Beyond and Scum Villainy, those are relatively easy up to the last boss anyway. So a lot of these groups who are crazy about Nightmare probably already have full 224 mods and enhancements now.
So that probably was legitimately their thought, but since they don't play, they didn't realize how hardcore gamers actually are, and will do what they can to get their gear.
They always forget about legacy gear.
Legacy gear, yep. I
don't know why they forget that.
They make the silliest design decisions.
It's even easier now because, for example, my trooper has 220 armor and everything. I can send that to a random alt, and my left side's garbage, but all that stuff can be shared. So it's, as long as I know what I'm doing, I'm fine.
The one thing I don't really see being discussed by a lot of people is the whole evangelism of the high-end community of the game. And for me, it is a super, super important part of any MMO or any kind of online perpetual game which is meant to be competitive or have any kind of drive to it, is the top, I mean, it's always the 80-20 split, but the top 5% drive the lower 95% to become better and to aspire to be like them. And this is true across any game you want to look at, pretty much. I mean, maybe not Minecraft or things like that. Well, actually, it's probably true in Minecraft too. You know, you see someone who's built I saw one of the days someone built a video call-in mobile phone in Minecraft. So when he can call himself on his phone and his face shows up on it. And I imagine people will watch that video and go, oh my god, that's so cool, I want to do something like that. which then motivates more. I think that's what people are kind of overlooking on this. And being the PvPer primarily, this is something I saw devastate the PvP community, because when those players left, there was nothing really to aspire towards, or to push yourself towards, or to look at, or to watch, or anything. You didn't have. If you look at it now, there's pretty much no high-end streamers for raids or PvP, with the exception of maybe one or two. Previously, there would be several. There'd be probably 10 or 20 plus. Guild-wise, there'd be more guilds as well floating around to do this. And what that does is provide you with a framework that everything else in the game clicks into. And when you remove that from it, you really have nothing to build on at all. Just have the layer of poop to try and build on, and it doesn't really make a good foundation, unfortunately. And I was trying to explain, I can't remember who I was talking to. I was using the NFL as an analogy. Like, why is American football popular in America, or why is soccer popular in the UK? It's not because of some podunk league in the middle of nowhere. It's because of either the NFL or the Premier League. Kids watch that and they say, I want to be a footballer. So they buy all the gear. They aspire to be like those players. They're not saying, oh, I want to play for a Division 3 team. They want to play for Man U, or I don't know anything about American football. The Dallas Cowboys. That's a team, isn't it? Yeah, they want to play for. Are they any good? I don't know. They sound good.
Not this year.
No,
not this year.
Not them. Okay, they want to play for a good team, which that's what drives them. They're not saying I want to be Jimmy Smith from Division 4. He's my hero in life. They want to be Peyton Manning, And if those players go, then everyone else goes as well. The reason that I find this to be a bit more of a compounded issue is from the money point of view. So, how do you make money off the NFL? You sell jerseys and socks and boots, and there's an entire industry based around that. Many industries based around it, actually. If those players go, so do those industries. And the way that BioWare is trying to fill their coffers right now is by trying to sell more items to the cartel market shop, and trying to put more paygate in the game, like the HK paygate or story paygate, that kind of stuff, which is absolutely fine. You can do that. But without having those things in place, does anyone really have the motivation to buy the merchandise? If there's no NFL, I'm not going to be selling any Peyton Manning jerseys. If I print another 10,000 of them, I'm not going to really get any money back on them. You see what I mean with this?
Yeah, like you're talking about like the pillars of the game. Like you can't build the structure of the game community if you don't have the pillars to rest upon. Like the raiding community is a pillar. The PvP high-end community is a pillar. People will build stuff around them. Groups form around the good players because people they want to learn, they want to progress, they want to get better.
Do you think that is going to be a more long-term issue with the game when these players leave?
Oh yeah, because back at launch, you remember how they were talking about the 4 pillars of the MMO? They said that, we're adding the 4th pillar. Okay, because MMOs traditionally, they said, have 3 pillars, and the 4th pillar is story. Well, now they've decided to disregard the other 3 pillars and just decide to build their pillar on that story.
Giant pillar.
One giant, fat story pillar.
That's right. But if it falls over...
You can't build anything on it because...
You can't build a cake with ice in, Miner.
Yeah, exactly, okay? Now, cheesecake is an impossible exception to that rule, okay? Because I think of that like it's all icing at this point because it's cream cheese.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of... Anyone got anything to add about this whole thing? No, we're all done? Okay. So we're going to move on to the next gate, which is exploit gate. So for those who don't know, there was an exploit in the game which allowed you to sell multiple stacks back for more credits or, tokens. So you'd buy 1 stack or 100 stacks, you'd separate one out, sell it back, and you'd be refunded the full 100 stack price. So obviously you could use this for companion gifts or anything from that vendor or Destin. And it basically gives you unlimited credits, unlimited influence, and all that kind of stuff. So what are your thoughts overall on how this entire thing was handled, Miner?
It was about the right response, but it's so late for them to do stuff right when it comes to the exploits. Like, they've had so many exploits in the past where people have gotten the slaps on the wrist and it wasn't enough to stop them from doing it. And once Sunday rolled around and the video came out that showed people how to do it, it just wildfire, and they should have taken down the servers at that point.
Or should they? Or
Well,
should they?
No, should they?
Because here's my kind of conspiracy theory on this, right? I want to just lay this out here. Everyone, if you've got any foil, go and wrap it around your head. We're going to go down the rabbit hole here. So I think they were aware of this a long time ago. There's many people saying they put tickets in. Cigar has been in the game for 6 weeks. People have said they did it at launch, essentially. So they would have been aware of it. Do you think that they let it run on purpose to infiltrate the Chinese gold sellers and work out which accounts will buy in credits from players, and then using that like a sting operation to take them all down at the same time? Or am I giving them far too much credit?
You're giving them a little much credit. I think that they had to respond this time. Like, they've always been slow to respond to the exploits, and I think they were just running through their rule book. Like, they have a list of steps that they take whenever this happens, that they were just running them down in order. And they said, okay, well, if it's not that bad, okay,
Yeah.
and if it's in this certain time window, we could patch it in with a hotfix. Because you'll notice that they only ever do the hotfixes in a certain time window after a patch drops.
Okay.
Because that's their patching process. Because once they've gone past that window, it's now part of the next build. Like, they've stopped patching on that particular branch.
Okay. What about
So-
something just like turning the vendor off then? Is that the
They-
same process?
They can do live GOM edits. It is built into the game engine, or was originally built into the game engine when they got it. They do not do them on live because it could lead to database corruption, like you saw in the Harbinger. Like when they turned the safeties off,
Yeah.
when they were doing banning people and removing credits and stuff like that while the game was on, it took down the Harbinger. And they had a
Say it ain't
4-hour rollback.
Yeah, the first time for everything, right?
Taking on the Harbinger is a bit like, beating a sickly child in a wrestling match. So it doesn't take much, does it?
Well, once they turn the safeties off, you see what happens to get 4-hour rollbacks, and that's pretty much what it would have required, is to turn the safeties off.
Okay.
To turn it off.
So how do you feel the whole thing was handled, Kuze? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I wanted to throw in my side of the conspiracy too. I just thought
here
of
we
when we
go,
were
here we
talking
go.
about it. Is that what happens when people when they make all these credits? Well, what are they going to do with them? They're going to go to the GTN. I don't think they want to take down the gold sellers. Let's just say they don't want to take them down because they're providing credits to people. When people get credits, what do they go? What do they do? They go to the GTN and they buy what?
Cartel packs.
Probably cartel items. So when there's a vacuum on the market for cartel items, then somebody else has to go out and actually spend real world money to put this back onto the GTN. So I think it's beneficial for SWTOR to leave.
Can I also chuck in my Robin Hood idea here as well?
Yeah,
So
sure.
there was a report on Reddit, so take this for what you will, that one guy sold credits back to the Chinese sellers to the tune of around about 10 grand. Another guy said he got about 8 grand, and I believe a third guy said he got about 5 grand.
Wow.
So we're looking at over $20,000 worth of credits sold here. What we should do, I shouldn't say that, what people could do is sell all these credits to the Chinese gold farmers for, say, 10 grand, go to the cartel shop, buy 10 grand's worth of cartel packs, and then just give them away to people. Merry Christmas. You can Robin Hood it. Paid for by the Chinese gold sellers, and that's 10K in BioWare's back pocket.
It's a lot of tacos.
How much cake does it get you?
Hold on, I'll get my own calculator.
As far as exploits
later.
are concerned and how they handle it, I normally try not to pay too much attention to the exploits and what's going on. I do like a pure gaming environment, though. So I know some people say, well, it's in the game. You should be allowed to do it because that's what BioWare allowed you to do. It's in the game. But I, for one, like a pure environment. If you're going to get an item, I think you should have to work for it. So if they ban people, it'd be nice if we had a large enough community. So if they perma-banned everybody that had it, that it wouldn't impact the population. But I think perma-banning a lot of these people is pretty bad. I absolutely think they should try to take back everything that they can.
Yeah. And
I guess they can perma-ban the most egregious offenders, but I don't know. Yeah, as Miner said, I think they waited too long.
Well, on this subject of what they've been doing to the people who did it, do you believe that the punishments were suitable? Well, Naps?
I think it's good that they seem to really bring down the ban hammer. As far as the permabans are concerned, I'm assuming that a lot of those accounts are probably the same person. Not all 500, but you know what I mean. It's probably the same person who really go on town on the exploit. I guess it didn't really. I don't know. It's nice seeing that they permaban from people, whether they actually did or not. Is I've seen a whole lot of reports on that. Oh yeah, permaban.
The punishments handed out were various length of bans, so from 1 day to 7 days to permanent, so 137 permanent, I believe, or monthly maybe, and then a resetting of all credits and comms, and companion affection and items and that kind of stuff. So do you think that's severe enough? Too severe? Inappropriate? Appropriate?
I mean,
I don't think they handled that properly. I think that they have the data. They could have removed just what was exploited. Like, it's more complicated, yes, but if you start zeroing out things people potentially paid money for, like say I bought a cartel pack and I sold it the day before I exploited, and I got that money, that's technically I've spent real world money to get them credits, and you're taking them away from me.
Yeah.
And that is a terrible precedent to set.
It is.
And so
kind of
that's why I'm like, I'm not for the severity of
the issue I've got with it is it punishes some people more than others. Do you follow me? So let's say you've got 100 billion credits and you do the exploit, and you do it the same as someone who's got 100,000 credits, and obviously you're punished much more than they are. And up until the point where you remove those credits, you could buy anything legitimately with them, assuming they didn't actually exploit 4 credits just for items, for this example. So you're punishing one person a lot more severely than someone else based around their own success prior to that, which I find to be a little bit cack-handed.
I would only make one suggestion, that the credit cap is actually 4.2 something billion credits.
Okay.
So you can't actually have 100 billion credits in this game.
Oh, sorry. Pick any number then. Jesus Christ. You've got someone with 50 million credits, and you've got someone with 1 million credits. The person with the 50 is punished more than the person with the 1.
I totally agree. I think it's a bad precedent. They should have removed only the stuff.
Also, the other thing worth mentioning is it doesn't look like the items were actually removed.
Yeah, they
just the credits.
They messed up some stuff. Probably when the Harbinger went down.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which again is a bit of a weird one, but
Well, again, they can avoid all of this if they would take to heart the tickets that are put in. And I know that
if they did their jobs properly, it wouldn't happen. Yeah.
Well, honestly, they could just roll back these accounts. Do a partial rollback. Roll back the accounts to the day before the exploit happened.
Ooh.
Which, like, figure out the day that they started exploiting. Roll back the account to that date. Boom.
Is that
Problem
doable?
solved. I would assume it'd be very doable. It would require a little bit of coding, but hey, they got some guys not doing anything.
With the
They're
PvP
They're already called Story.
they're making HK chapter. I don't know what you're talking about.
Guys, HK 56 is coming next week. Calm down. We've got to get the hype ready for that. But do you think this will deter people from using future exploits?
No.
No, people will still exploit if they can exploit, because I'll never get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll do it on a free-to-play account, and they'll try to launder it better. Like, they'll figure out that, they didn't remove mail messages this time, so they'll then send the credits in the mail. Then they'll do that. We'll clear the mailboxes. And
Yeah. Do you think that... One thing that I was concerned about, and I was surprised that no one did this really, if you have someone with billions of credits on an alt account, and the ban hammer's coming down, you couldn't just buy everything. Like, couldn't you just go to the GTN and just buy everything?
oh yeah,
And
like
then
you
just
can just
delete it.
destroy the economy.
Yeah. I'm
Burn the
surprised
economy
It's
no one-
like
with it.
poisoning the well. Like it's gonna be me. I'm going down. I'm taking the entire server economy with me.
Because, Mina, it's not about the credits. It's about sending a message.
Look,
If the GTN was efficient enough to buy all those items in a hurry, yeah,
if the
I can see
search
that.
worked.
Yeah. You can't search right now, so that kind of helps.
Oh, do you think that could be... Actually, do you think that could be intentional then? They turned the search off to prevent people from doing this?
no, that
I
was
don't think so.
database issues.
No? Okay. I might give them too much credit again, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that their previous limp-wristed approach to exploits meant this one was always going to be worse, and more people would do it.
Oh yeah, like you'll definitely have less people exploiting next time.
Yeah.
But you'll never dissuade people that are going to exploit from doing it.
Okay.
You can only ban them and send them back to 0.
So one thing I wanted to speak about here, and I'm interested to get all of your opinions on this, is where do we draw the moral line for exploiting? Because I've heard a lot of people really go in ham on they should all be permanently banned. If they just tested it, they should get permanently banned. If they looked at the vendor the wrong way, they should be permanently banned. You know, there's been lots of people just crying for ban hammers because of this particular exploit. Now, there's a lot of ways you can exploit in this game, and I mean, exploiting is just anything against the TOS. Like, for example, what Miner does. And
it's technically speaking, an exploit can be using anything in the game in a manner not intended.
Yeah, well, like what you do. Yeah.
No, I'm outside the game. It's not technically.
Oh, I'm sorry. You wait, where do you get the files
now,
from?
if I was teleporting, okay, then that's an exploit.
Yeah.
That's
whatever. You can stick to your mumbo jumbo logic on this one, but we all know you're exploiting. But let me give you another example here. So what I've been doing recently is I've been using my mobile phone to access my home PC to send companions off on crafting.
Sweet.
Now that's not exploiting. That's me physically moving my icon. You know, if I have a wireless mouse
one
and I say 10,
one push, yes.
yeah, there's no issue with that. But what you could do just as easily is set up some kind of macro program that clicks all that for you and does it automatically on rotation every X amount of minutes. Which
I know somebody that set up an OCR script that would scan that would read the screen, scan where the mission title was that he wanted, and he would actually click and send them out automatically. I know a guy that made one of them.
That's pretty clever.
That's also exploiting.
Yes, that would be.
And the same thing with people in PvP, like for example, the hut ball macro is probably the most infamous one, where you press down the right mouse button, it does 10,000 clicks a second, which means you're pretty much always going to get the ball in hut ball, which really ruined the game back in 8-man days. But again, none of these players were ever banned or punished or anything. So why does everyone go absolutely berserk for the one, but no one ever really cares about the other one or finds them acceptable? Is it just a severity of crime, or what's the moral compass on this? Kuze, you seem like a fairly genuine fella. What's your thoughts on this?
I think that some of the PvP stuff probably wasn't as well known. I mean, I know that a lot of people knew about it, but this turned into a huge thing across the whole community. So everybody had eyes on, and they were all. I think it just had more views, and so I think they had more opinions and more people complaining about it. As far as exploits themselves, to me, my moral line draws of basically if it's in some way or another going to impact another player, then it's for me in my mind, it's an exploit. Mm-hmm. If you're getting around something and you're just making your life easier, fine, I don't care about it. You can still call it an exploit, but as long as I'm not getting impacted by it, then I don't care. It's when you start affecting other people.
Because here's the thing that I find interesting with this. So using this exact exploit, let's say I did it and I made myself 10 million credits. I get permanently banned or temporary banned, they get stripped from me. Whereas the person using the macro to send off crafting materials or whatever they do, I don't craft, so I don't know. They get the same amount of credits. It might be over a smaller window, but they get zero punishment, and no one anywhere is saying they should be punished.
I just don't think it's as well known, to be honest. I think if it was well known across the community that this macro is out there and all these people are using it, they would probably have the same.
Make a video.
Yeah, make a video or something.
Post it to Reddit. Or the official forums on the weekend, because they have no moderators on the weekend.
God, you got to get those shots in, haven't you?
If people aren't complaining, Bioware's probably not going to go out of their way to find it.
Okay. We'll move on to the next one now then, which is announcement gate, because let's gate everything. So there was a post from Musco. There was a post from Musco that said, hey folks, we know you're looking for more information on the timing of future group content. Although I cannot go into any details yet, I will say this, ... We are actively working on a new war zone, and we are looking to start revealing details in February. Insert my normal disclaimer of all things subject to change. On the PvE side, we do not have anything specific to announce at this time, but we will certainly share more information as we have it. The team is hard at work on the 7 remaining chapters in Season 1, as well as additional content, which you will get monthly starting in February. For us, it is important that all of the content, group content included, ties into the storyline of the Fallen Empire and connects to your character's story. Story is what sets the Old Republic apart, and it is important for us to deliver your personal story across all aspects of the game. Yada, yada, yada. Now, what are your thoughts on this announcement? And we'll check this to Nep.
I read that as there's nothing to talk about because we have nothing planned as far as PvE is concerned.
I read that as get fucked ops.
Yeah. To put it in your terms, sure, yeah, that's what it means. I read that and man, I was like, well, we asked for it. We asked for some kind of response, and that's what we got. And I wasn't necessarily surprised by it. I did honestly have a little bit of hope that maybe I'm wrong, and they got something planned for quarter 2 or whatever. But
what is that, Miner? It's a picture of your cat. All right,
thanks
for that.
Very
People are
important
asking
conversation.
for to get him on stream, and I said he's sleeping. I gave you a picture.
So the things that I take away from this is, okay, so a new PvP map is great. I mean, that was mined a while ago. I don't know whether it was you or Potato who did that. But we found that out a few months back. The thing I find interesting about this is the dates. So we are looking to start revealing details in February. So it's the announcement for the announcement, which will announce probably another announcement for a new Warzone. Now, even I would say if the map comes in March, I would be impressed by that kind of turnaround from their announcements.
May at the earliest, I think.
I'd be quite impressed by that as well, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's
the earliest. It may not come out until August when Season 1 ends.
Now, what that says to me as well, though, in terms of the operations, is that nothing is coming or is even going to be discussed until that date at the earliest, which then sets that back by another 2 months as well. So you're looking at kind of August, September time for a new operation.
Assuming they have one, yes. That's a lot of people, I think, are in that opinion.
Because one other thing, which I know they've mentioned something on here about PvE side, and they want to do some content. But when they launched 4.0, they said there will be no new ops in 4.0. And at the time, I said, do they mean the entire expansion, or do they mean just 4.0, as in launch? And that was never ever clarified by anyone as to what it was. I asked Garrick Teague when he went to the cantina to ask them, and they didn't really give him an answer on it there either. So now I'm starting to think there's actually nothing come in at all.
At the cantina, they avoided all questions like that because I harped on Bacchus for a while about that stuff, and it was very, yeah, we know about you guys. That's kind of what I got.
Yeah, I think
we're here.
Yeah.
I think we're all hoping it was just launched in 2015, but we were expecting to see something in 2016. And Nepthan said it on his show. Even if as raiders, not that I'm necessarily that hardcore, we're just casual, but we still love to raid. We assumed and we knew that we were going to be doing old content for a while, and we agreed that we can do this for a little while, but we don't know how long it's going to last. But we'll deal with it as long as there was hope in the future for something to come. If they did release a glimmer of hope, maybe in that unprecedented cast that they had, a stream, and said, hey, we have a PvP map in the works, it's coming soon, and we are also working on a new raid, and just simply state, we don't know the time frame to the new raid, it could be late next year. There probably people would have blown up about that a little bit, but at least there's something in the books, and we know they're serious about bringing the content back. But saying absolutely zero for right now, they're going to lose a lot of people between now and February if something's even announced in February for raids.
Okay, I think we're all kind of in agreement with that one then, that it's bad days for PvE. But the thing I don't get with this is how do they expect people to stay? Do they honestly? Come on, seriously. Do you honestly expect a bunch of people? I know they have metrics and metrics. That's amazing. Loads of metrics. Yeah, great. But historically speaking, their analysis of the metrics has been absolute dog shit. So I find it really difficult to. And there's no offense to the guy who's doing the metrics. When I read his post, he did seem to be very, very clued up on it. But someone somewhere is interpreting that data vastly incorrectly.
Well, I think you had it correct a long time ago before 4.0 came out. In the beginning, we had 8 different classes, 8 different long stories that people can play through, and it wasn't enough to keep people around. So they didn't learn their lesson regardless of how many times people say they love story, and it didn't work in the beginning, and now they forced you down it even more so this time around than before.
Yeah, I kind of agree with this.
Yeah.
The issue that I've got with it is, I mean, and this, I wish Andrew was here because he explains this much more eloquently to me, and his analogies are far more understandable than mine. But it's a bit like if I went to a vegan convention and I polled 1,000 vegans as to whether meat was good or bad, I would pretty much be told that it was bad. But that is because I'm polling a very specific type of crowd, and that's their attitude. And when you have a game which is already lost, I mean, if you go to the waves of players who've left the game, you had the hardcore even at the beginning, then you had the slightly less hardcore even, then when you didn't have the server squish, more people left, then the PvPers left, then more ops players left. So all that's really left now are the people who like Star Wars. I like my lightsabers. You know, those guys playing dress up in their houses for 10 hours a night. And they're asking them, what do they want? Well, they're going to tell you they want the same thing that they have now, because that's why they're in the game, which isn't going to get you any new people in there. And I find that very disturbing on a lot of levels, mainly because how on earth would anyone be so dumb to use that data as something reliable?
Right. And maybe even, I mean, a lot of the raiders probably said they wanted some extra story too. I mean, I do everything. I wanted extra story, you know, because I finished everything, but I don't want it to take precedence over the other stuff.
Yeah, I agree. So any more thoughts on this announcement from anyone?
I think it's rather linked to the next thing we're about to
All right,
discuss.
so we're going to move on to Staffgate, because we don't have enough gates. So Jesse Sky and George Smith have moved on to different things. The sky is literally falling. Who did that post on Twitter? That was very amusing. Was that you, Neff? Well done, mate. Yep. I like that one. So who is Jesse Sky? I know you're probably better equipped to answer this question than me.
He was the lead Flashpoint and operations designer at launch, I believe.
Yeah.
If my memory is correct, and then I believe right before 3.0, he moved to the creative lead designer role.
Okay, so what does that do?
Well, it could just be a title. It could be that he was just doing his regular job, but may have been given some other duties, like instead of just designing operations Flashpoint content, he might have also been designing some of the outdoor content, so they needed to give him a better title.
Okay. And George Smith?
He was the lead operations designer. I believe he stepped up into the role that Jesse was doing. So now, both the guy that led the operations design team at launch and that took over for him have left the game.
So what does this actually mean in terms of the game? Explain it to the average person.
Well, you're also not covering the other people that left.
Who else has left?
I'm not sure of the names, but they are hiring for several senior positions at the moment. One of them is development director. One of them is a senior gameplay designer. That might be the operations one right there. They're looking for artists, several senior artists, both technical and concept. They're looking for a senior software engineer, and they're looking for a system and mid perforce, probably a DB guy.
That's a lot of vacancies.
It is, and you have to wonder what happened. Is this a post-expansion studio trim down? Is this the last one that they're getting, or are they going to build back up after, towards the next expansion? But they wanted to trim some of the guys out because now George is over there working on Mass Effect Andromeda.
So basically, for us, what this means is the two guys who are working on ops are no longer working for the game.
And they haven't announced any that are being worked on, obviously, because they don't have the guys there to work on them.
So, I guess that's more leaning towards we're not going to get on operations in the next ever.
I'm leaning towards ever.
Definitely
Really?
possible. Yeah.
That seems insane to me.
If they can pull this off with the story stuff, why would you make new ops?
Right. And on Bill on the last Teeny Cast was talking about, they're making right business decisions, but not for the player, for themselves. And he's alluded to before that they're trying to do as minimum amount of work as possible, not necessarily work, but the smallest team possible and sustained income coming in.
Because the cartel market is too volatile to ever rely on for
Okay.
your income.
But I mean, based on all the discussions we had earlier, like for example, the importance of guild, the importance of what keeps things together and what binds players to the game, how all those things retain players, isn't going down the single player route ultimately going to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy where there'll be no one left to play the game?
I believe so. There'll be the people that log in 1 or 2 hours a week. They'll still be around until the very end. I think that's all that's going to be left, to be honest.
This is depressing. Miner, give us a cake analogy quickly.
Yeah.
Well, icing leads to cake. I don't know. I was trying to think like fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate.
I was going to say that
leads to no cake for anybody.
there's a point where your love of your guild or community no longer outweighs your disappointment with the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, I mean, I've said on many occasions for a long time actually, the main reason I think a lot of people are still playing in this game is because there isn't really anything else that's been released in the same time frame that is kind of as good. Like WildStar was a bit of a flop. I've heard good things about Final Fantasy.
Can we talk about like I went back to playing WoW recently, and the amount of just stuff to do
Me too.
in that
God,
game
this is
compared to SWTOR is just ridiculous, and it's not
Crazy.
even like stuff that I want to do right now. It may be stuff that I could do in the future to keep my time occupied,
Yeah.
but there's just nothing to do. They didn't add anything to do. There's no heroic missions that, it'll take you a week to do this, or anything like that crazy that you have to go on.
For the newbies, or for the veterans, especially from SWTOR.
Isn't it
We've done it all.
crazy, right, that we're doing a SWTOR podcast, and I say, we all love SWTOR, and I say, so there's no other good games, and every other person here says, well, I'm playing WoW. It's like,
well, I've tried a lot. I've tried Final Fantasy. It didn't grab me, probably because I didn't have the community over there. But if I had a community over there, it might have. SWTOR has spoiled me somewhat for all the voice acting. When you go to another game, I just got a beta for Black Desert, which looks amazing. Who knows if it's going to pan out or not? But I'll give it a shot. But similar to what Miner's talking about, is all the small things is what I miss. World of Warcraft had a ton of small things. Even regardless if you want to do them or not, there's stuff there. I mean, there's fishing, there's pet battles. Not that was anything amazing, but the point is that there might be somebody out there that loves that, or a group of people that loves that, which brings people into the community, which brings more people to try out different stuff. SWTOR has lost and I wanted to make a list for this. Speaking of my notepad, I wanted to make a list of all the things that they've neglected over the past that they could have kept going. And I've harped on this for a long time. There's just not enough small things on the side to do. They're forcing you down one path of story. There's not, Datacrons are linked now. I always go to that one for my go-to, but they're linked now, so you don't have to do them on multiple characters, which is, it's a good move, and it's not. They shrank down all the travel points. Everything feels smaller. There's nothing else to do. There's no extra stuff as far as side quests. They've
Getting
taken those
items.
items. They could expand upon the seeker droid thing. They can expand on some more exploration. There's some stuff in game. There's like that tome that was in the Outlaw's Den that was supposed to link to something that they talked about a long time ago, which it's not. I've been on top of the buildings in Rishi just exploring because I like exploring, even though they've been blocking you a lot more lately with their new expansions of exploring.
Exploiter.
And there's like this glowing data. There's this glowing data core up there, and they haven't done anything with it. There's a waterfall that has this huge cave system behind it on Rishi, which there's nothing there, which they probably wanted to put a Datacron there maybe, and they didn't. There's just tons and tons of things that they've neglected. Regular star missions, the space missions. Yeah.
They had some that they showed off that are unreleased. Like, they have them there. They were almost done. Why not release them? I don't play it. Somebody might.
Right.
oh,
So to
Nap,
me, it's lack of the smaller stuff.
Nap, you better get her on raids already, mate. She's at that age now where she needs to learn how to heal properly.
It's my pocket healer in a few years.
But yeah, no, there's excellent points, Kuze, where really for a game, I mean, the joy of MMOs is the perpetual world. It's constant. You log in, time has elapsed, things have occurred in your absence. right, and off you go. When you have the exploration things, I mean, I've never liked exploration, to be honest. I'm not that kind of player at all. I like stabbing people in the face, and that's pretty much all I want to do. But I've done it in WoW, because some of the areas are just so pretty and they're so nice, and I spent hours once just flying around on my Drake, just like, oh, that's cool. I'll take a screenshot of that. Let's fly off somewhere else. Oh yeah, that's cool. You know, when you have the taxi rides and you're flying around, you're like, oh yeah, that's all very, very pretty. And it seems like for a game which, by definition, it's a massively, massively, the word is in the genre, it's very, very restricted in what you can actually do. You can't really go, like, you know, climbing and looking for different things, or there's not these little Easter eggs for you to find. And it just seems to be... I'm guessing it's going to come down to... There's always two arguments that you'll hear for this, and this kind of, like, completely negates any points, really. The first one is resources. Yeah, I'd love to do all these things, but we don't have the resources for it. But we do have the resources to give you HK55 missions and yada, yada, yada. And the other one is MMOs are hard. The MMOs are hard to do, which... They're such shut-down blanket statements, I kind of reject them as respectable counterpoints, apart from the resources one, which is obviously always going to be a problem. But how do you see anything being salvaged from this? I mean, are we past the point of no return now?
I think by the time they realize that they need new content, that all the people that have left are probably so jaded that they might not come back. Or, you know, maybe given enough time frame, they will, but it might be too late. I don't know.
Can I just bring up my favorite conspiracy theory now as well? Which is the... oh, mine knows where I'm going with this already. SWTOR 2. Is there going to be a SWTOR 2? Or another Star Wars MMO?
EA's got the license. They could.
So we know that no matter what happens, it'll be filled with microtransactions.
Yeah, and you'll have to buy a season pass.
Season pass.
Season pass, yeah. If you don't buy the collector's edition, you can't log in. Yeah,
That's right.
Like, you
Refer
saw
a
the
friend,
amount of
get 'em out.
content. You saw the amount of content in the release in Battlefront. Could you imagine if they launched a new SWTOR MMO or Star Wars MMO with a similar level of content?
You mean coffee?
No, to Battlefront.
Oh yeah, he means coffee. Yeah.
I was trying to play that with a straight face. Okay.
But can you see that being announced at some point in time? Because this game has run for a while now, and MMOs tend to have a
I
limit.
heard a rumor that if Force Awakens does good, that we might hear something next year about
If Force Awakens does good, so yeah, that's good.
So
So, yes.
February.
If it's not the Phantom Menace, you might hear stuff. I heard.
Even the
I
Phantom
talked to
Menace sold
Progress-
loads. I mean, it made money.
Yeah, but it wasn't like The Force Awakens sounds like it's going to be a good movie, and it's going to break records. And that's what they need. If it does that, I could definitely see them building an MMO around that. To try the whole Star Wars Galaxies, write an MMO in the current era, get people in there to play with the people and the places and the things. Yeah, people could get excited about. SWTOR is a little bit disconnected from the rest of the Star Wars universe now because it's not technically canon. And if you could do another canon MMO, I think you could get people in there.
So let's take your odds on this then. What are your odds, Miner, that by the end of next year we hear an announcement for SWTOR 2 effectively?
I'm playing 75% odds that you'll hear it announced at E3 or shortly after.
When is E3? Isn't that like in
July?
Okay.
I think.
Kuze, what are you going for a percentage on this, mate?
Oh God! Any chance that anybody has a chance to make money, they're probably going to do it. So
Yeah.
pretty close.
Pretty
Even if it's not BioWare, some other company they might give the license to, or gives the permissions to build it.
So you're going for 100% then?
I'll go 80. I don't want to be
80%?
quoted as saying 100.
This isn't the kind of show you get quoted on, Kuze. I was going to say, Kuze said 100% confirmed SWTOR 2 is coming.
Just retcon it later, Kuze. You're fine.
It doesn't. He'll eat his microphone.
No, what we'll do is we'll say that it 100% is coming, but it's not coming unless you sub for the next 8 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
In
you
8 months,
imagine
you'll find yourself wound up in carbonite again, and you'll be frozen to the future.
Because why
month
not?
After that, you'll have a SWTOR baby.
You'll wake up with amnesia. Where am I? What is this world? Neff, what are your odds, mate?
Yeah, I'll throw mine with them. 7580.
I'm going for 100%. I'm saying confirmed. You heard it here first, guys. I'm officially announcing the SWTOR 2 is coming. It's going to be announced at E3. I'm 100%
I've already
right.
made the tweet earlier this week. So.
Exclusive. Take a seat, TORCommunity special. SWTOR 2 confirmed. But I've only got one more question to ask you guys. And it's a little bit of a negative one to end on, but the show has kind of gone that way now anyway. But what would it take to make you unsub right now? Assuming you are still subbed. So, Nap?
I'm still currently subbed. I do have a date in mind where I will unsub if I don't hear anything that I want to hear, which is I want a new op, and
Okay.
if the new ops don't come till summer, I can't stick around for that.
Okay, so yours is no ops until summertime. Kuze?
I used to be a 6-month sub. I've changed that. I bought that little expansion pack that they put out because it was a good deal. It had some cartel coins in it, and that stretched me out to March. Come March, if I don't hear anything, I'll probably go on a bi-monthly sub, and I don't know, summertime maybe. I really, really, really hate to leave my guild and go do something else, but I might be throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
And that's the same thing for you then, is it? Operations and operations by summer?
No, it's not. I am an everything guy. I love everything. I love the story. I love PvP. I'll take more PvP if they updated PvP. If they implemented cross server and they added in a new map and maybe 8-man regs or something along those lines, I would definitely stick around. If they add a new PvE or a new raid, I'll stick around for that. There's multiple things that can keep me in the game, but I don't know if all that's going to happen or any of it.
Miner, you've already unsubbed, I believe.
My subs run out. Yeah, so
Okay, so I guess the opposite question is correct for you. What would be needed for you to resub?
commitment to providing group content and other solo content that is non-story related on a regular basis. And they've pretty much broken every promise they've given us. So I don't know if I could ever.
That's the worst thing about it as well, isn't it? They could say Ops are coming in July, but like, no, they're not. They're going to come in December earliest if they said July.
Because they've gone on record before saying there would never be a period longer than a year between operations. Guess what? It's been more than a year since we had an operation.
I guess you can argue the toss that the old one's been reworked or new.
Oh. No.
Shut up, Snave, you casual. Jesus Christ. You don't even raid. Shut up.
Go back to the war zone, Snake.
Okay.
Go back to under Musco's desk, you.
Oh my god. Right, so that is everything, guys. So before we finish up, let's tell everyone where we can find you. So, Miner, where can we find you, or where can we not find you?
Twitter at this point, Reddit. I haven't posted anything on Reddit in a long time. You guys know me, SWTOR_minor. Expect me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's the cringiest thing you've ever said, and you said some cringy things. Jesus Christ. Go and get your mask, and go and get your fedora, and we'll just complete the image.
You need to change your picture to a cake now.
Don't even pretend that it's not true.
I'm going to put a fedora on HK55.
That's fedorable. What would it take for me? Sorry, I didn't answer myself. What would it take for me to unsub? To be completely honest with you, at this point in time, the only reason I'm still playing this game is because of the community I've got based around my guild and my stream. That is literally it, and I don't really have a great alternative. If any of those, if I had an alternative now, like for example, if Legion was released for WoW next week, I would have already unsubbed. So for me, I can afford the sub, so I don't really care so much, and it also allows me to do something that I enjoy doing, which is streaming. But as soon as I get a better option, it's going to be like a Looney Tunes cartoon with a trail of dust behind me. I'll be straight gone. Anyway, Kuze, where can we find you?
Mainly on Twitter. Actually, the only place on Twitter. It's Kuze_row, and occasionally on Utinicast at utinicast.com.
Nicely done there.
Thanks.
Actually, I'm going to ask you a question here. Who would you prefer, Tio or Chill?
In what manner? In bed?
Physically, yeah. Well, it's got to be Tio, isn't it? No offense to Chill, but that man is
Can
just
I
too
can I
delightful.
meld them together? Can I put Chill's, his black belt body on with Tio's cheekbones and stuff like that?
That would be
Make
just the
it.
perfect host, wouldn't it?
Someone do that. It needs to be done.
And Nept, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Nepthan ORD. You can follow us at the Old Republic Radio at Old Republic Radio, and I'm on pretty active on Twitter.
When is your podcast coming up? What dates does it air?
I release Tuesday. Now it's more Tuesday, a little more into PM because my office is the way now where I can't edit podcasts at work. So they're always bringing me down. So Tuesday nights.
Okay. And you can find me on hitbox.tv/Snave. I think the stream has just died, unfortunately. But you can find me on hitbox.tv/Snave. I'm on Twitter at Snave1208. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for taking a seat. That is everything. Cheers, guys. Ta-da. Bye-bye.